Hey everyone, Max of 343 Labs here. We're a music production school based in New York City, Berlin, and online. And today I'd like to show you a clip by one of our instructors, Justin Beck, where he explains why you should EQ low frequencies differently to high frequencies. Now this clip is taken from 343 TV, which airs right here on our YouTube channel several days per week. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get into it.
And so the very first thing, and there was a subsection in the name of today, right? It was about the fundamentals of mixing, but also EQing, right? Very first thing, I can't stress hard enough about EQing. The more that you EQ a sound, the less it's going to sound like that sound that it is. Every single frequency contributes to the definition of a sound, right? And the thing is that once you start taking away important areas or adding too much to other areas, you're going to completely warp the sound, right? So if we just listen to this kick drum, I'm going to take off. Well, yeah, let's listen to the kick drum, right? The shape of it is great. There's thump and there's cut. Right? So really with the kick drum in any genre of music, the thing you want to be focusing on with mixing is, does it thump, right? So is it heavy? And does it cut through the mix? Now, playing a kick drum in isolation is pretty much the most useless thing you can do in a mix, because the kick drum alone is always going to sound fine. And if it doesn't, then get a new kick drum, because the kick should not have any issues on its own. That's another thing that I can't stress enough. If you chose a sound that has a problem in it without even being a part of the mix, you might want to choose a new sound. If you designed a sound that there's something wrong with it before you even put it into the mix, you might want to design a new sound, right? All right. Now, what I did with the kick was I literally just notched down a little bit of 40 hertz because it was a little too thumpy. And so what was happening was the kick was coming beyond the low end of the bass, which I didn't want. I wanted the kick to sit nicely like a pillow under the bass and be tight, right? So a lot of the times the kick drum, if it's something that you've recorded or designed yourself, or even something that you've taken from the internet, if there's a problem in the low end, right, a lot of the time the easiest way to do it is you just find the fundamental area. Now this wasn't actually the fundamental, this is just a low spot. And you just duck it a little bit. Now when you're EQing a kick or a bass, it's really important that you use a tight band, right? So overall this is not particularly wide, right? It's not wide like that. I have it much tighter, focusing on one area. The reason for that is because notes and harmonics are separated over much smaller intervals in lower frequencies. So when you're EQing, right, what you're really doing is you might think that you're, adjusting tone, but what's actually happening is you are reducing harmonics or adding harmonics, right? And as we may or may not know, as you get higher up across the frequency spectrum and the octaves start to become further and further apart, right? So 40, I don't really know what note that is. I'm going to guess it's like an F or something, or an F sharp. If I go to 80 hertz, right, that's the next octave. So it's 40 apart. And if I go from 80 to 160, right, that's then 80 apart. Then I go from 160 to 320, that's then 160 apart. Then I go from 320 to 640, right? Now it's 320 apart, right? So you see where this is going. And so the thing is that the higher up that you get into the frequency spectrum, the wider you generally need to make cuts or boosts if you want to add broader harmonics and make broader harmonic changes. Because what starts happening is right, there are only 12 notes. There are always 12 notes, no matter what, in terms of this frequency spectrum, right? In terms of octaves, at least in Western styles of music. And those 12 notes are distributed across an octave, right? So if the octave is only 40 hertz to 80 hertz, which means it's a 40 hertz differential, right? That means those 12 notes are distributed over 40 frequency bands, 40 different frequencies, right? So that means that there's actually less than, there's a whole note contained within 4 decibels. Contained within 4 hertz of distribution, right? So that's why in low frequencies you cut really tight. If you cut really wide, what you end up doing is you don't actually make a specific change. You just overall reduce information. The key is to find a specific note or a specific frequency that's causing a problem and turn it down. That's how you mix low end. Period. End of story. So the higher up you get, what happens is, right? So for instance, 1040, the next instance of that note is going to be 2080. So that means that you have those same 12 notes, which were distributed over 40 hertz, are now distributed over 1,000 hertz. So if you go like this, you're not really targeting any information. You might target like a little area, but if you really need to fix a broader problem, right, something that's causing a big problem in the mix, you would have to make a wider cut. So the thing is that this is basically the same as this, just relative to that frequency area. You want to make wider cuts the higher up you go and tighter cuts the lower down you go. Now, obviously, that's just a principle. It's not a rule, right? If you have a specific harmonic that's causing an issue in this area, then you pull it out, right? You pull it out really thin. If you have a specific resonant frequency that's happening in your hi-hat up here, you pull it out. But if you're just generally going, oh, the hi-hats are too bright, this is not going to do shit. You have to do this, right? And similarly, if you're like, oh, there's this bass note in the bottom that's causing a problem, you don't want to go like that. You want to go like that. Anyway, so like I was saying, I designed my kick really well. I didn't have to do that much. All I did was reduce at 40 because sometimes that can overstress the speakers.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget 343 TV goes live right here on our YouTube channel several times per week. And if you want to learn more about music production or just want to join our community, you can find more information at 343labs.com or 343labs.de for our German website. See you next time.